Well, it's my privilege to introduce to you our pastoral team. First, we have Deacon John Coran and his wife Robin. Welcome. We have Deacon Dan and his wife Karen. We have Sister Annie, who was at St. Francis Hospital for a time in Lawrence County, so we're grateful to have Sister Annie back. And then our priest, we have, of course, Father Bill, who's also known as Fulton Sheen. Father Victor, who many of you know from St. Mary's or Mary Mother of Hope. Father Victor has a new role. The bishop has assigned a parish chaplain to all the groupings. So he will be responsible for all of the institutions within our area. And then we have Father Anthony Sharapa, the youngest of the crew. And Father Anthony is assigned also to be the chaplain at the College of Westminster. And he was the son of the parish I was at before, St. John of Paul. He comes from there, and I see his parents are here. If they would stand and we could say thank you for their presence. And ushers, make sure you give them envelopes. I'm sure we'll see a lot of them. And that's a good thing. Did you hear in the gospel today? It's the perfect gospel for this weekend, because we find James and John asking Jesus for something. And we all tend to do that. We're always asking for something. But notice that James and John are asking for something very self-centered. It's all about them. Yet Jesus comes as one who offers everything for our sake. And it challenges us, as he challenged them, to consider, what am I willing to sacrifice for Christ's sake, for our faith, for the sake of passing that faith on to the next generation? How many of you have children, great-grandchildren, grandchildren, nieces, nephews, around the age of 4 or 2? How many of you have that? Oh, most of you do. Some family member. Well, I have 2 over here. My little nephew, Patrick, who's 4, and my little niece, Mary Alice, who's 2. Now, of course, they get showered with gifts. And have you had this experience? When you give a child of that age a gift, as I have, they open it up, they look at the gift, and then they play with the box. Do you ever have that happen? I mean, he does it all the time. And I think I should have just given him an empty box, because that's what he really likes. Well, God's children tend to do the same thing. We get so enamored with the box that we forget about the gift inside the box. And that gift is God himself. In the Eucharist, in the sacraments we celebrate. When I was here before at YDC, I was blessed to be part of a group that built an interfaith chapel right in the middle of YDC. And we celebrated the sacraments there with those inmates. And now YDC is closed. But everything that happened under the roof of that little chapel remains, because it's eternal. But the building is just a building. It's like our flesh. It will come to dust. I come from a parish where I spent 16 years adding on property and then a church. Well, we had to build a Protestant church in order to get the property to build our church on. Then we built a 1,500-seat church. And it's gorgeous. And I hope you all see it someday. Beautiful stained glass windows that came from another church that was closed. As well as the bell in the bell tower, over 100 years old, came from a closed church. The Stations of the Cross, the tabernacle. So many things that make this present-day church beautiful came from other churches that died. Because there's a dying and a rising. And the people from those other churches come there and are so grateful because it lives on. But the day will come when Saints John and Paul, that church, will be dust. Just like our bodies will be dust. But everything that takes place under that roof, that is what's important. And that is what is eternal. And that's what lasts forever. So the Lord challenges you and me to detach from what is material and attach to what is spiritual. There's a fire of faith in Lawrence County. And that fire is being threatened. And it's your responsibility and ours to keep that flame alive. My mother and Pooch Allegra, who used to help me with those retreats at YDC, always said you have to keep the main thing the main thing. And what's the main thing for a Catholic parish? Right! Say it! Jesus! Our faith in Jesus and passing that faith on to the next generation. That's our ultimate goal. I have a poem for you. There were 6 people. There should have been 7 because we have 7 parishes. 7 stars, 7 sunflowers. But there's only 6 people in this poem, but you'll get the point. There's a bonfire keeping them alive. And every single one of these people have something to contribute to the fire. But for sinful reasons, they hold their stick back. 6 humans trapped by happenstance in dark and bitter cold. Each one possessed a stick of wood, or so the story's told. Their dying fire in need of logs, one woman held hers back. For on the faces around the fire, she noticed one was black. The next one, looking across the way, saw one not of his church, and could not bring himself to give the fire his stick of birch. The third one sat in tattered clothes, and gave his coat a hitch. Why should my log be used to aid the idle rich? The rich man just sat back and thought of the wealth he had in store, and how he could keep what he had earned from the lazy, shiftless poor. The black man's face bespoke revenge as the fire passed from his eyes. For all he could see in his stick of wood was a chance to spite the white. The last man in this forlorn group did not expect for gain. Giving only to those who gave was how he played the game. 6 logs held tight in death's still hands was proof of human sin. They did not die from the cold without. They died from the cold within. Within us is the tendency, like James and John, to think about me, what I want. I want this church. I want this time for Mass. I want it in this place. I want. The day will come when a community this size will have one priest. Now you have some young guys up here. Maybe one. So you get my point. You get my point. This fire that is the Catholic faith in Lawrence County needs our sacrifice to keep burning. And we're all responsible, not just me, not just these guys. All of us are responsible to pass that faith on to the next generation. And we can't do it alone. That's why we've called you all together here. We're one Catholic family. And we have to decide now to work together to keep that flame alive. And I hope you will be willing to do your part as we are willing to do ours. To keep Jesus the main thing and to pass him on to the next generation.